2024 was my best year ever in business. And so, of course, in 2025, I should be setting bigger, better, bolder revenue goals, right? Well, not for me. So this year, I am not setting business revenue goals, even as a business consultant. So you want to hear more about why I'm turning my back on official business growth? Let's dive in. Again, 2024 was my best year in business. For context, I've been in business 4 years and I primarily sell services. In my first year of business, I made just over $100,000 doing primarily subcontracting consulting. And in year 4, I cracked the 300K revenue mark as a service provider. So if you want to learn more about how I really made my first 100K, watch the linked video. But I've had what most would say is the ideal success. Every year has been up and to the right revenue. So why wouldn't I be setting yet another stretch revenue goal for 2025? Maybe crack 350 or crack 400. Well, let me tell you about why that's actually out of alignment with my life goals. So let's talk about the 3 reasons why 2025 may not be a year of revenue growth for me. 1, I'm continuing to shift who my clients are. So again, in 2021, I primarily worked with subcontracting consulting platforms, and I only had $30,000 of my own branded book of business in my work. 2022, in order to make more money, I started doing fractional COO work, 4-figure months on retainer with a handful of companies. And I continued that work through 2022 and 2023. But in 2024, things really started to shift for me. I got really clear on who I wanted to work with and how I wanted to work. And I fell in love with being a teacher and being an advisor. While doing hands-on COO work is very financially lucrative and I could make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that for the right kinds of companies, that's not who I really want to work with. I had a couple of those companies last year that were bigger and had bigger budgets, and that wasn't the type of work I wanted to do. In 2024, for the first time ever, I made more than $50,000 in programs and in my brand new membership. And the more I taught in groups, the more I did advisory work for clients, the more I focused on my membership and building communities, the more I felt like I was coming home to myself. This is the kind of work that I like to do. So I'm saying no to some of the clients who were the most lucrative on my roster this year in order to say yes to the type of projects and clients I want to take on. So no more big companies, no more big consulting arrangements. I'm going to be working with experts who are soloists and small teams, working in advisory, working in courses, working in programs, working in a membership at the pace that allows me to be a teacher. So what does that mean for my client roster? I'm actually moving away from fractional COO work and ending that high level of engagement with my last client sometime this year. I am leaning into advisory, but I'm capping my number of one-on-one clients that I can take on. I know how to make money. I did that in 2024. And I'm not sure I want to lean in on continuing to totally just sell my time for dollars. I'm leaning in on programs, leaning in on courses, and I've got some creative projects to talk about. So the first point is I'm changing my client roster. I'm dialing even further into who I want to work with, which means that there might be a bit of a blip in my revenue as I build up some of our revenue streams. Reason 2 is look at this calendar. Look at this calendar. My calendar for the last half of 2024 was bananas. I had too many clients. I had too many podcasts and visibility opportunities. I had too much, and I did not have time for breaks. I did not have time for creative projects. I sometimes didn't even have time for lunch. My poor little dog, sometimes I would have to have my husband take him out all different times of the day because I was trapped at my computer 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, sometimes 12. Do not recommend the strategy. I knew it would make me money, and I did it at the cost of my calendar. I did it at the cost of being able to kind of have some of the freedom that I really got into business to be in. And what for? For some arbitrary revenue number? We'll talk more about really how I'm setting some limits on my calendar later in the video. And number 3, I have some creative projects that I want to put out in the world. As some of you know, I'm in the middle of writing a book, and I got more done on the book in the 2 weeks off of client work during the winter holiday than I made progress on all year. And it became so clear to me that I need to have this dedicated time for creativity, the dedicated time to think about teaching and frameworks. And if I'm going to be a teacher, I need to not be 100% dedicated to client work. I mean, I'm always not dedicated to client work. I follow my own philosophy about time management and have time for marketing and have time for business admin. But all of my best time was spent with my clients, and I love my clients dearly. But I have other projects that need to be birthed in 2025. And they're the kind of projects that don't immediately make money. Who knows what kind of revenue my book is going to make? Who knows what kind of revenue my courses, when I make them, will make? I don't know, but I do know that they probably won't make as much money as selling my time was last year. So these are the 3 reasons why I am not setting a stretch revenue goal in 2025. I'm shifting who my clients are and actually pulling back on some of my more lucrative client opportunities. I want to protect more time in my calendar, and I want to pursue some creative projects that may not be monetized right out of the gate. So you could say, well, Jessica, why don't you just charge more money for the current clients you have and again, keep your revenue? Well, I like what I'm charging for my clients. I really like the prices that I'm at. I love who I'm working with, and I feel like it's fair. So I could charge more. I probably should charge more. My tarot guides have told me that I should charge more money, but I like the prices that I'm at. They keep saying, continue to charge expensive rates for expensive problems. And that leaves the population I want to work with at the rates I want to work with somewhat underserved. So I'm not changing my prices. I'm not raising them. I'm thinking more strategically about how to leverage my time so that they get more bang for the buck and I continue to be of utmost value to them. But we're also walking into kind of an uncertain economic environment right now with the change in the US political party. And so right now, raising my rates isn't on the table for me. So Jessica, if you're not setting revenue goals and you're not raising prices, what are you doing? Well, I have said that this year, instead of having a revenue goal, I have a revenue floor. I looked strategically at my expenses from the past year and said, what am I spending on a recurring basis? What projects am I taking on this year? I'm taking on a rebrand. I'm finishing my book. So those are really big projects that are on the horizon for me. And what revenue do I need to cover my owner pay, my recurring expenses, some of these project expenses? And that's my goal. That's my floor. And by strategically cutting some investments from last year to free up both cash and time, looking at the software I'm in, the communities I'm a part of, the investments I was making, the coaches and consultants and communities I was a part of, I cut some of that back. And actually, my revenue floor, when I looked at all those components, was actually 25% lower than my 2024 revenue. So in 2024, some of that extra money went to increasing my cash buffers, some investments that I probably shouldn't have made. But in 2025, I'm going to say, I'm going to decrease the expense requirements. I'm going to decrease the revenue requirements. And I'm going to take that open time and space and see what happens. There is a very good chance that 2025 might actually make more than 2024. But I really don't have any idea. I'm instead setting a floor to say, okay, what do I need to cover my expenses? What do I need to cover my owner pay? How do I make sure that my business is sustainable? And be really comfortable with maybe a quote unquote down year. I'm setting a floor for what I need to charge and what I need to cover in order to stay solvent. But beyond that, I'm leaving myself open to the wonder and the possibility that could come. Who knows if my book is going to sell, or who knows if it's not going to sell? These courses that I'm going to be creating to go along with the book, they may sell. They may sell way better than my one-on-one client work does, but I really don't know. And so instead of putting an arbitrary revenue goal just to say I hit a number, I'm saying, what do I need to cover? What's enough for me? And then leaving it up to the universe, to the market, to my own marketing to see what else happens. But instead of putting pressure on that and setting that goal, I'm leaving the space to be filled by what I can't expect. So this year is why I'm not setting a big revenue goal. I will know that I have done what I needed to do this year when I publish the book, when I have my business rebrand, and when I start publishing a couple of my courses. How that's going to turn into revenue? No clue. Do I think in the long term it's going to be better? Yes, I do. Will I be working with the type of clients, teaching the type of topics that I want to be doing? Yes, I will. Do I know that's going to happen in 2025 explicitly? No, I do not. And for the first time in my business, I'm really letting myself lean into not knowing exactly what's going to happen, focusing on the next steps right in front of me. This is a hermit year in the tarot, by the way, focusing on what's here and now for me and releasing the pressure of everything else. It feels really good and really exciting. And I hope you stick along in the journey to see what happens this year when I leave space for this kind of possibility. So if you'd like to follow along, like and subscribe this video so you can stay appraised into my personal journey in my business this year, how I'm doing versus my revenue floor, what happens to my revenue goals. Should be an exciting journey, and I hope you're along for the ride.